Do you have questions like whole milk versus skim milk? Which one's better for weight loss? Or what are the actual ingredients that I need to add to a salad to make sure that I'm getting enough nutrients or all the nutrients that I need throughout the day? Maybe you have questions about calorie deficits, calories in general, weight loss. Well, you're in luck, because in today's episode, that's exactly what we're going to go through. Real quick, I'm Noah Casella. I'm a registered dietitian, and I help people with healthy eating behaviors, weight loss, and improving overall health metrics. If you could use help or coaching in this area, please feel free to reach out to me. I offer one-on-one coaching for those looking for it. Okay, to give us a little bit of context for today's video, we're going to go through roughly about 10 different questions regarding nutrition and weight loss. Each question, we will look at the question and we'll answer it. We'll answer it using kind of my perspective, but in addition, I'll try and support any sort of claims that I'm making backed up with evidence, right? Is there a meta-analysis? Is there a scientific study that says, hey, this is the way that we should approach this question? Starting off with our first question, what would you have to put into a salad in order to hit the recommended daily required nutrients? Title says it all. Trying to meal prep for my cut and wanted to hit everything I could in a day to keep me going. First off, I have to say this is such a great question. The fact that you are paying attention to your calories, your meal prepping, those two behaviors in themselves are going to have a huge impact on your overall health. In addition, you're not only paying attention to those, but you're also trying to achieve a balanced diet, trying to get all the vitamins, all the minerals, fiber, antioxidants, everything, all the nutrients that you need. So props to you. That's huge. That being said, it's going to be very uncommon for you to meet all of your nutrients, even if you have a massive salad that has spinach, kale, arugula, you throw in some cucumbers, some tomatoes, some bell pepper, some feta cheese, some lean protein on there, maybe some chicken, right? That is going to make up, that one meal theoretically is going to make up 1/3 of your entire day's worth of nutrition. And looking at it from that perspective, you should theoretically have 1/3 of your daily calories, 1/3 of your daily protein, 1/3 of your daily dietary carbohydrate, 1/3 of your daily fiber intake, 1/3 of your daily vitamins and mineral intake, right? So one meal should meet about 1/3 of that. In essence, your total day's nutrients, your total day's calories, protein grams, fat, carbs, etc., should come from several meals throughout the day. The way that you're going to want to try and achieve this, getting all of the required nutrients that you need per day, is you're going to want to eat foods from each of the food groups. These food groups include your nuts and seeds, your whole grains, your low-fat dairy, your lean proteins, your fruits, your vegetables. If you consume not only ingredients from each category, but you also have a variety of choices in each category. So, maybe you're eating chia seeds and you're also eating almonds. We can go to the dairy section where you're having some milk and you're also having some low-fat cheese, right? So you're having a variety of different ingredients. It's going to give you a bigger nutrient profile overall, right? So you're going to get the nutrient profile, let's say, from the milk, from the almonds, from the chia seeds, and from the cheese in and of itself, which are all going to have varying amounts of different nutrients. A good example of this would look like, for instance, calcium, right? Calcium, we know majority of calcium comes from our dairy intake, right? So milk and cheese. So eating about 3 servings, about 1 cup of milk is 1 serving, or about 1.5 ounces of cheese is 1 serving. 3 of those servings per day is going to help you reach your calcium goal. To give us the example that we were looking at earlier, having 1 salad with, let's say, 1 serving of cheese, right? That's going to give you 1/3 of your daily requirements for calcium. Understanding that and saying, hey, okay, theoretically, let's say we try and do it all in 1 salad and we're trying to meet all of our nutrients from 1 salad. We'd have to put, what is that? Have to put 4.5 ounces, about 4.5 ounces of cheese on our salad in order to meet this daily requirement for calcium. It's not going to be that great tasting of a salad. So I think another good example of this is fiber intake. So fiber is primarily going to come from your veggies, your whole grains, your fruits, your nuts, and your seeds. That being said, you can look at the back of a package of, let's say, almonds, or look at the back of the package of whole grain bread, and you'll notice that there's only, 3 to maybe 6 grams of fiber. Some ingredients will have much higher fiber, maybe 9, 10, 11 grams of fiber, but that's more uncommon. Several servings throughout the day of something that contains fiber, maybe 3 to 4 grams, eventually that's going to add up to your total daily fiber requirement. Again, trying to consume that in one meal or one salad, it's doable. It definitely is. It's not going to be very fun. It's not going to be that great tasting. It just is not going to be ideal. Whole milk versus skim milk. I'm so confused as to which is better for weight loss. For the bulk of my journey, I assume that less fat means less weight gain, but I keep seeing conflicting information online. What are y'all's thoughts? It's a great question. Ideally, skim milk over whole milk, and here's why. Specifically, when we were talking about weight loss requires you to be in a overall negative energy balance, aka a caloric deficit. So what that essentially means is you're intaking less calories than you are using or burning per day. Okay, so with that concept here, the calories in an 8-ounce glass of skim milk is about 80. And so the calories in a 8-ounce glass of whole milk is about 150 calories. We are talking energy balance here, right? And we have a choice to have a lower calorie option that still meets all the requirements, i.e. skim milk. That's probably going to be our better bet for lowering our overall caloric intake. In addition to this idea of calories, let's talk about fat. You mentioned this in your question here. For the bulk of my journey, I assume that less fat means less weight gain. Macronutrient composition, so protein, fats, and carbs, don't have as big of a role in weight loss or weight gain. Rather, it's still more dependent on the overall calorie intake. Specifically with dairy or milk products, the majority of the fat content that's going to be in those products is going to be saturated fat. We have a ton of data that looks at the correlation of saturated fat intake and the development of cardiovascular disease. Consuming a whole milk that has extra calories, specifically coming from saturated fat, not only is going to have a bigger impact on your total daily calorie intake, it's also going to increase your total daily saturated fat intake, which, right, we have that correlation to cardiovascular disease. So in this circumstance, and pretty much every other circumstance, I would say relying more heavily on skim milk, maybe even 1% or 2% milk over whole milk, for the reasons of calories and the saturated fat content. How do you get back to cutting calories after a maintenance period? I went from about 190 to 165 April to December, and I took a 15-day maintenance break. I have stayed at about 165 pounds during this maintenance period. I want to go back to a deficit so I continue losing weight. I'm finding it hard to eat lower than my maintenance calories. Any tips? First and foremost, you should be really proud of yourself. You lost 25 pounds. It's 13% of your initial body weight. You've successfully dieted, and I say successfully here because, right, you have lost a significant amount of weight, so you are really in a caloric deficit for those 5 to 6 months. So with all that being said, are there any tips to help you go back into calorie deficit after a 15-day maintenance period? I don't mean to squash this for you, but I'm going to say that there aren't going to be very many tips for you here. Other than kind of just being really disciplined and really dedicated. Even in that, it's probably going to be really difficult for you to maintain a calorie deficit any longer than you already have at this point. So with that being said, the research shows that weight loss plateaus tend to kind of pick up after about that 6 to 8 month mark. And I kind of look at it as this buildup over time. This buildup essentially is you're building up your hunger, you're building up your overall lack of energy, right? And those keep compounding on each other day after day, week after week, month after month, until it's no longer sustainable. And it really is very hard to sustain a calorie deficit in what we call it an obesogenic environment, right? So it's an environment where there are a ton of calories and there's not a ton of physical activity. So having all of these factors in here, right? You have compounding your hunger day over day and week over week and month over month. You've also been compounding your overall lack of energy day after day, week after week, month after month. And you put that on top of being in an obesogenic environment where there's a ton of calories available and there's not a ton of physical activity. forced physical activity, it's going to be really difficult for you to manage or maintain a calorie deficit any longer. So that being said, there was some research that highlights this, and I thought it was pretty interesting. It looked at several different dieting methodologies. So it looked at a calorie deficit. It also looked at using like drugs like the GLP-1, semaglutide, and I think it was trizepatide, in addition to looking at like a gastric bypass surgery as well. So it compared those 4 dieting strategies and looked at the impact of weight loss plateaus over time. And every single one of them had a weight loss plateau. And the worst offender of the weight loss plateaus was a calorie deficit. And the thought behind that is that there is, specifically with a calorie deficit, I talked about this compounding hunger that you get, week after week, day after day, month after month, that comes from being in a negative energy balance, not eating enough food. This contributes to your appetite feedback loops, right? And so it makes it so your appetite is always on and you're never satiated, and anything that you eat is just never going to fill you up. You're never going to be satisfied, and it makes it really difficult to stay in a calorie deficit that way. I think that you're describing weight loss plateau where you're finding it difficult to stay in an energy deficit or a calorie deficit, and you have overall, probably lower energy levels. I would say what you can do here, and my suggestion would be to actually pull your foot off the gas pedal for a little bit. Stay in a maintenance phase for, let's say you were dieting for 5 to 6 months. And so you got to where you got, and just take that for what it is. Go into a maintenance period. You're really trying to maintain that 165 pounds for the next, call it, equal amount of time to the time that you spent in a deficit. So you spent 6 months in a deficit, spend the next 6 months at maintenance and maintaining that 165 pounds. Let all of that hunger feedback loop, that appetite feedback loop calm down. Let your energy come back up a little bit. See what it feels like to go to the gym with a full tank of gas, and how much, you can, push more weight, you can run faster, all those fun things. Let all of that compound on itself for a few months. Then prepare yourself for another weight loss phase. Will I still lose weight if I drink 1 to 2 zero sugar drinks per day? Zero sugar drinks really help me feel satisfied after long meals, so I usually drink 1 to 2 a day. However, I was talking to someone about this, and they said that I wouldn't be able to lose weight if I kept this up, because my body acts the same way towards zero sugar drinks as it does sugary drinks. Is this true? No, this is not true. In fact, the research that we have behind non-nutritive sweeteners or artificial sweeteners is that non-nutritive sweeteners actually aid in weight loss, as our research tends to point out here. It actually supports weight loss because it's not providing any calories, and it's a option that has, it's sweet. It helps you feel better. It makes you feel satisfied after long meals. So for that sheer fact, it has no calories and it helps with feeling satisfied, are going to be the 2 reasons why these zero-calorie diet sodas, non-nutritive sweeteners are going to be beneficial for weight loss. Theoretically here, you could even drink 1 to 2 regular sodas. Not something I'm recommending, but you could theoretically do that and still lose weight as long as you are still in a calorie deficit. What do people mean by weight training or weightlifting for weight loss? Okay, so the question makes me sound completely ignorant to weights at all, and I don't think that's true. I guess I'm trying to define what people think counts when they say they weight train for fat loss. Does using resistance bands, using challenging dumbbells, kettlebells at home count, or do I need to be using the bar and a bench at the gym? Are machines any good? What qualifies? So what counts as an effective resistance training strategy? Well, let's first start with the purpose. Why are we resistance training? The goal of resistance training is to grow and maintain the current muscle that you have. In order to do so, there are a few things that your body needs in order to encourage that process to happen. Resistance training, some sort of mechanical load that those muscles are having to adapt to over time, In addition to that, calories and protein can also influence your ability to develop muscle tissue. So we're going to put that aside for now because that's not what we're talking about. Under the banner of resistance training, we can look at weight training, lifting heavy, strength training. They all kind of fall under the category of resistance training or providing that mechanical tension. Under that piece or under that idea, the thing that I want you to consider here is that there is a term called progressive overload, this idea that we are going to work out. We're going to increase the number of reps we do with each workout. We're going to increase the number of weights that we do for each workout. And this is going to allow us to slowly and incrementally adapt to those changes over time, allowing that muscle to grow in size and strength. So lifting weights for weight loss specifically. Now, in terms of the resistance training and the idea of growing new muscle tissue or maintaining that muscle tissue, that is all going to be dependent on your calorie intake. So, the only difference here is we have kind of 3 levels of calories. We have calorie deficit, where we're in a negative energy balance. We're not getting enough food, enough energy. Then we have a maintenance level of calories. So it's kind of like the equilibrium of calories in versus calories out. They are equal to each other. Then we finally have a calorie surplus, where we're eating more calories than we're expending per day. So that equilibrium is off, skewed towards the calorie intake. When we're thinking about lifting for weight loss, as I mentioned with the stimuli that's needed to grow new muscle tissue, we need protein intake, we need enough calories coming in, and we need resistance training. When we are taking into considering weight loss, we are automatically taking one of those pieces out of the equation, We are not eating enough calories. The goal is to be in a caloric deficit, which is going to encourage weight loss, which is not the most ideal environment for building muscle. With that being said, we can check the other 2 boxes. So we can check the protein box and we can check the resistance training box. And by doing so, yes, you will be maintaining that muscle at minimum. And there might be a possibility that you might gain some muscle too, especially depending on what level you're starting at. In summary, what people mean by lifting weights for weight loss is that it's kind of the idea that you're offsetting the effects of a calorie deficit, which is going to encourage muscle loss and weight loss in general. And you're counterbalancing the effects of that by stimulating the muscle and strength training in addition to eating enough protein. The idea being that you will at least be able to maintain your muscle mass, if not be able to actually gain some muscle out of this. So let's move on to the next question. On to our next question. We've got maintenance calories. Hi there, posting for the first time, but I'd like to ask if there's any females here that could share their maintenance calories. I weigh around 50 kilograms and 160 centimeters. Leading a sedentary lifestyle, the calculator usually recommends around 1,500 calories. Is this really normal for us small folks? Haha. I'm not a female, but I am a dietitian, so I figured I'd answer this question for you. So theoretically, yes, a 5'2" or 160 centimeter tall sedentary female weighing roughly around 50 kilograms or 110 pounds is going to need an estimated calorie intake of about 1,500 calories per day. Now, what I do want to say here is that these are predictive equations. These predictive equations are based on, age, gender, height, weight, activity level. So they do take into some individualization, but not to the degree that you may need more calories, even though you fit into this category. So what I will say here is, if you want a little bit more accurate measurement of your maintenance calories, what I tend to recommend is for folks to track their weight and track their calorie intake for at least 2 weeks and say, hey, I'm not losing and I'm not gaining weight at this amount of calories. That might be a more accurate depiction of how many calories you burn based on genetics, lifestyle, like all the individualized factors that make you you. Based on your current lifestyle, which is sedentary, it's not the most ideal lifestyle for longevity or health. So I think that there's an opportunity here for you to eat more calories, but also try and get a little bit more physical activity. I did calculate another round of calories. So if you were a little bit more active, meaning I think you got the recommended daily physical activity requirements of about 30 minutes of moderately vigorous activity per day. in addition to like 2 strength training sessions per week, roughly would put you around 1,900, almost 2,000 calories per day. So it would be a great way for you to get some physical activity in and also be able to eat a little bit more food overall. What to do about a weight loss plateau? Hello, looking for some advice. I've been in a deficit for 6 months at this point and eating 1,500 calories a day, 1,700 calories on Friday and Saturdays. I also work out for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, and run 2 kilometers every day. In the beginning, it worked really well. I lost almost 3 kilograms, almost 7 pounds, but since then my weight has refused to budge despite my continued efforts. Some research I've done seems to suggest that this is because my metabolism has slowed down and that I should therefore increase my calorie intake to 1,800 calories a day. My maintenance is around 2,300 calories to fix it. But I'm very frightened doing so might undo my progress that I've made. Any advice on what to do would be strongly appreciated. So what to do about weight loss plateaus? In this case, right, we were in a deficit for 6 months, 1,500 to 1,700 calories, working out every day, and we're wondering if we should bump up to 1,800 calories when your maintenance is 23 to make sure that you are, able to continue losing weight, but also not undo all of your progress. So first things first, I want to say that the research tends to point at that anything longer than 6 to 8 months in a calorie deficit, there are 2 things that are going to happen that are essentially going to cause this plateau. The first being a decrease in overall energy use. So you're just going to move less, you're going to blink less, you're going to talk less, you're just going to be less animated overall, you're just going to use less energy. That's number 1. That's not the biggest factor. The even bigger factor is going to be your drive to eat food, right? Your appetite feedback circuit is going to be completely skewed towards making you hungry all the time, making it so that you're never full after meals. So, right, these 2 in combination in the environment that we live in, which is, right, we have readily available calories, Taco Bell on the street, DoorDash is on our phone. So you can see, like, you're really hungry, famished, not moving enough, really accessible calories, the chances of hitting a plateau are high. And that's what the research points out too. So what I would say here is if you've been dieting for longer than 6 months and you're, starting to see some of that progress slow, my common suggestion here is to take the foot off the gas pedal, so to speak, or take the focus off of weight loss and transition that over into, a maintenance period of time where you're really focusing on, eating a well-balanced diet, you are strength training and encouraging new muscle growth, and you are trying to dampen some of those, hunger signals that have built up over the last 6 months, and you're also trying to bring those energy levels back up. That's going to be my suggestion here, but I'm having a really hard time losing weight. I'm a 40-year-old male who is 5'8" and weighs 193 pounds or 87 kilograms. I'm not obese, but I do hold fat around my waist. I can't get my diet down, and I'm looking for advice. I'm trying to back down to 165 pounds, but I don't know where to start. I live 4 days a week. I play kickball on the weekends. I guess I'm not burning as many calories as I think I am. Can someone help? First off, I have to give props to this person because they are practicing these healthy behaviors. They're regularly working out. They're including some strength training. They're now starting to pay attention to their diet. So kudos to you. Right? If you're not losing weight or you're having a hard time losing weight, that is because you're not in a calorie deficit. I would say assume you're consuming too many calories. Your intake is too high, not that you're not burning enough calories. It's so much easier to overeat calories than it is to try and burn off more calories. So I would look at that in terms of those 2 pieces there. I did look up your overall calories. Granted, huge asterisks here. This is based off the context that I have from this, few sentences. I use the National Institute of Health's body weight planner, which suggests somewhere around 2,900, maybe 3,000 calories per day to maintain your current 193 pounds. In order to lose weight, let's say that, get down to that 165 over the next 6 months, you'd want to eat somewhere in the range of about 2,200 calories per day. And then once you get to the 165, you probably would want to be around 2,600 calories per day. Now, where to get you started? That's what I want to give you some takeaways too. So, to get started, I would suggest first and foremost self-monitor. Right, you can track your calorie intake, you can track your weight. Getting a sense of what your actual intake is and what weight fluctuations you have based on your intake can give you a little bit more insight into what's going on. In addition, if you are going to eat in a calorie deficit and you're going to try losing some weight, I do encourage eating enough protein, specifically enough to support not only the weight loss, but also to support the workout regimen right now. That might look like somewhere around 1.2 upwards of maybe 1.6, even as high as maybe 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So roughly 130 to 180 grams of protein per day. Then I'd also suggest hitting your fiber goals on a regular basis. So about 14 grams per 1,000 calories. Based on those weight loss calories, it's roughly 30 grams of fiber per day. The last piece I'll suggest here is to have regular meal times. How to fix a slow metabolism is our next question. How do you fix a slow metabolism after under eating for years? And if you're slowly increasing calorie intake, don't you just gain weight? So that's why your metabolism increases? This is a good question. And this is a problem that I actually see quite often, specifically with chronic long-term dieting. And just as a quick side note, avoid long-term, chronically dieting or yo-yo dieting. If you want to lose weight, it's kind of like you get into caloric deficit, you get out. You get into caloric deficit, you get out, right? And it's like, if you can just maximize the potential for the 8, 12, 16 weeks that you're going to spend in a calorie deficit, and then giving that equal amount of time spent at maintenance, or even a little bit of surplus trying to gain muscle is typically my recommendation. You hit a slippery slope once you start doing this yo-yo dieting where you're like, it's Monday, I need to start dieting, so I'm not going to eat breakfast, I eat 1,000 calories. Then Tuesday comes, you try to hold on, maybe you're at 1,500 calories, and Wednesday comes, you're still holding on, you're maybe at 1,700 calories. You see where this is going, right? We get to the weekend, we have drinks, we had 5,000 calories on Saturday, and we had another 6,000 calories on Sunday, right? So even though we didn't eat enough on Monday through Wednesday, the amount that we ate on the back end of the week covered plenty, right? So that's what I'll say here is if you want to lose weight, spend some time in a calorie deficit, dedicate that time and be diligent about staying in the caloric deficit. Then, move on. Get out of the deficit, get at maintenance, and just work on those healthy habits. How to fix a slow metabolism. I think we'll break this up into 3 different points. Shifting our mindset, increasing our calorie intake, and doing some resistance training along with eating enough protein. So those are the 3 things we're going to cover really quickly. So I think that the mindset shift first that needs to take place is, you're changing your mindset from, I'm dieting, I'm restricting calories, I'm, on all the pieces, right? You're making so many decisions around that from a day-to-day basis, and a meal-to-meal basis for that matter. So first and foremost is shifting from losing weight to, nourishing your body, building healthy habits, and developing a strong body. And so, we go from this concept of I'm getting smaller, I'm, getting weaker, I'm just losing weight to, I'm nourished, I'm flourishing, and I'm strong, right? That's kind of the concept that we need to shift our mindset towards. The second thing that we'll talk about here is increasing calorie intake and that effect that'll have on your weight. So initially, yes, increasing your calories after prolonged deficit is going to cause some weight gain. That initial weight gain isn't going to be essentially there's going to be fat tissue that's going to be developing. Instead, it's probably going to be your glycogen storages, right? The carbohydrate storage in your muscle is going to fill up, and your liver is going to fill up. You're probably going to have more nutrients floating around. You're probably going to have more biomass from eating more food actually in your digestive tract. So yes, your weight probably will have an initial bump up. But over time, I actually could imagine that if you maintained that maintenance level of calories and didn't go over it, that you probably would actually kind of see, your weight balance back out, and you probably would go back to where you ended up at as far as the end of your weight loss plan. The final piece is we're going to focus on doing more resistance training and eating enough protein, and this is going to help support building that, strong body, develop, thicker bones, bigger muscles, all that fun stuff, right? So doing some resistance training in addition to eating some protein is going to help support that, which is also probably going to help support your metabolism, kind of kick that back up as well. So I hope that helps. All right, guys. We answered several questions. We looked at dieting, we looked at food choice, we talked about fixing metabolisms, we talked about strength training. We went into quite a few different questions today, all around kind of weight loss, nutrition, and health. I would love to be able to answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to add them into the next episode of this, Dietitian Answers Questions on Reddit episode. But for the time being, thanks for being here. Again, I'm Noah Casella. I'm a registered dietitian. I help people with weight management. If you guys need help with anything, feel free to reach out. I would be more than happy to support you. So that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one.